Hello, and welcome to this session of Managing Online Course Design and Effective Teaching Online Strategies. The goal of this presentation is to share with participants best practice in course design, provide additional strategies to manage online course content, and discuss the importance of alignment as it relates to the online course. So let's talk a little bit about instructional design considerations when converting a face-to-face course to the online environment. What is a quality online course and what are we looking for? Well, an online course should be well organized and easy to navigate for that online student. For students entering your course for the very first time, they should immediately know where to go first, what the structure and the overview of the course is, and how to access the role of the online environment in your course. So for instance, if it's a hybrid course, they need to really be able to understand what's face-to-face versus what's online. And if it is an online course that has asynchronous components as well as synchronous components to it, that should be also clearly communicated in the course. All web pages should be visible to the students and functional and have a consistent look and feel throughout the course. And you should really be thoughtful and proactive about accessibility as it relates to your course content. Let's talk about how it's really important to think about the interaction of the course. One of the things I think that's important to consider as faculty members with our areas of expertise is that oftentimes we have lots of depth of knowledge in a course content area. If we're asking students in an online introductory course to come into the course, we are sometimes trying to orient them with breadth. So make sure to keep it simple. Make sure to resist the temptation to add additional links and material that may not be relevant to the week's overall objectives. It's really about the course content in this course. Students want to be able to connect with the material in new and interesting ways. And so when you're choosing material to connect the concepts for the students, think about things that may also highlight andragogical or heutagogical approaches. Think about opportunities to allow students to draw on their own personal experiences to make relevant connections. I also think it's important to mention that you should really be able to organize the resources and for the students in a useful direction and keep the information that you want them to be able to highlight in a very usable format. University of Washington had some helpful hints around planning a distance learning course. And one of the things they suggest is that you should really take time in the very first class, the very first day, to orient your learners to the overall navigation of your course. One way that I've seen this being done really well is through the use of a tool called Jing. Jing is a free technology that is offered by TechSmith that allows you to navigate over your course and do a screen share, but also offer a narration. So in many examples, I've seen faculty show the very front of their site and navigate just for 30 to 45 seconds the student through the course site. So good morning to this class, or welcome to the class. We're really happy that you will be joining us this semester. Let's talk and walk you through and give you a course tour in this next 45 seconds. This is an excellent way to introduce your course to your students and really give some additional insights to students as you're spelling out their expectations. In course design in an online and even a hybrid course, it's all about interaction. There are really three types of interaction that are really key as you plan your learning activities and the overall design of your course. First, you want to make sure that students have ample opportunity to engage and interact with the course material. You want to provide them with opportunities through self-assessment or other learning activities that allow them to grapple with the course content and the concepts that you're asking them to grasp throughout your course. Secondly, you want to make sure that you give students an opportunity to engage with you as a faculty or the instructor of the course. So this goes beyond just being able to send an email to you asking about course questions or asking about course expectations. But for instance, as you are grading discussion board posts, it may be important for you to employ the Socratic method, meaning that you look at maybe a grouping of discussion board comments that have a common thread and weave your response together that highlights certain elements of each of those discussion board posts. And then you ask the students a question that asks them then to reflect back on what they provided to you and maybe takes their learning to the next level. Lastly, you want to make sure that you allow students to engage with their peers in the course. And so I would say as you're building your discussion board posts, your prompts, make sure that you're really including these 3 prongs of engagement. Course design and interaction. In each case, the interaction should be instrumental to the success of the course. This is really pivotal. As you think about your weekly modules and the overarching goals of your course, it's going to be really important for you to identify what are your weekly learning objectives. What are you asking for the students to be able to do or demonstrate at the end of each week? So for instance, if I were to use a very easy example, if I'm asking the students in the very first week of the course to be able to identify the alphabet, then providing them with engagement opportunities that, for instance, would have them look at primary colors would be a misalignment of the actual interactions in the course. So make sure that you are really familiar with those objectives and that all of your activities are linking back to those opportunities to connect to the objectives. Talk to your fellow online faculty, surf other course sites, and look for courseware tutorials. There are a lot of opportunities to engage with interactive components. I mentioned Jing is one. Another option is VoiceThread. VoiceThread is something that is an online discussion board forum but has an interactive component so that you are able to not only just type in your responses, but you can see the individual's face, you can hear their comments as they respond to the overall post. There are many opportunities for you to enhance the engagement of your online and hybrid course. I also want to caution you against adding additional material that is not specifically required for the course. It's going to be important that as you think about if you have an area where you want to add additional resources, you clearly mark what resources are required and what resources are optional. Oftentimes, when we move to the online format, we overload our students with the amount of material and links that we provide them. And we have to think about making sure that we're offering a balanced approach. I want you to keep in mind that it's also important for you to incentivize these activities in the online environment. Unfortunately, if students aren't being incentivized with a grade or a participation points, oftentimes you will find in your online course that students may not engage in all of the activities. One of the things that you can do is provide small opportunities also for self-assessment. For instance, if you're working in new course concepts, you may want to provide a test your knowledge section of the course. In this section, students can grapple with the new course content. They can quiz themselves and get immediate feedback without having to wait for the high-stakes assessment or quiz to happen or wait to hear from you as a faculty member. I think this is the most important piece of the overarching presentation for today. I really want you to think about creating a consistent organizational pattern in your module template. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I think that when you create a consistent look and feel from week to week, students understand very early on in your course what will be expected and how the course material will be laid out. It also is important as you're developing your online course that you're really familiar with copyright issues. Think about privacy of information and etiquette of the internet. Make sure that you provide an area in your course that provides outlines and expectations around etiquette. Do you believe in having students in the discussion board posts be able to have correct grammar? Are you open to slang like LOL or other terms that are sometimes found in texting? If not, make sure to clearly identify that early in the course for the students. Also make sure that you give students an opportunity to know that this online course is really about us being a community of learners. And so you will find that there will be some times in your course that you will have to tweak along the way as the semester progresses. Encourage students to report dead links to you, inactive pages, or other issues that they find in the course. This will give you an opportunity now as a facilitator in the online course to go in and make those adjustments. So, as we talk more about a consistent look and feel of your weekly modules, you should really determine a well-designed, easy-to-follow lesson with interesting assignments that are key to the successful learning experience for the online student. For instance, you'll see on this page, this is the overview of one faculty member's weekly module. She starts with an overview of the lesson, which gives us a brief introduction and an abstract of what the students will cover. She then goes right into the summary of the learning objectives, so students know at the end of the week what they should be able to accomplish. She then moves from that to a folder that has materials for reading or viewing or listening of the actual assignment. So what are those key concepts? She then lists the key terms. Then she follows up with a discussion of key questions, and that she does through a discussion board post. And lastly, assignments or exercises. So you will notice that the overview of this navigation here provides us a consistent look and feel. So every single week of her course, this is the modular outline. So it starts with the objectives. With the objectives listed, you have an opportunity to show students the roadmap of what you will be asking them to achieve for this week. Let's spend some time also talking about the importance of creating a hybrid versus an online presence. Course material should really easily be identified in terms of what is online and what is hybrid. For a fully online course, it's going to be important that you delineate the flow of the course and each weekly module. However, in a hybrid course, you will need to spend time to have some additional diligence around what parts of the course are in the online format and what things you will do face-to-face. Unfortunately, what ends up happening often is as faculty members spend time in the face-to-face component reinforcing what's available in the online component. And really what we should be doing in the face-to-face component is using that time to make sure that students have a great grasp of the knowledge that they are doing online. So, for instance, flipping your classroom, spending time having the students to do all of the homework, read all of the readings, watch all the videos, and when you come to class, having interactive assignments that then allow the students to take the lead of being able to report out or give their peers more information. You can also do something called peer instruction. There is a faculty member by the name of Dr. Eric Mazur who worked at Harvard University and was a physicist and started to notice that his lecture style was not really allowing students to be active learners and engaged in the content. So what he did was he created a method where he created something called a concept test. So the first thing that students did when they came into the face-to-face component is he gave them a concept test. Now the concept test was not a basic identification of material. Instead, it was asking them think critically about questions around the material. So here's an example of a concept test. If this had been a biology course and we were asking students to learn about photosynthesis, the concept test the next morning when they came to class would be, what is the role of chlorophyll in photosynthesis? So you can see from that question right there, it's not just about basic identification, but students need to be able to understand and think critically about the role and how to apply the whole process of photosynthesis as opposed to just being able to identify the steps. Based on the students' responses, then Eric would then go back and lecture or reinforce with activities that provided more knowledge around areas or concepts where students were stuck. I offer these suggestions to you because I want to really get you to think about how you can use that face-to-face time in a way that supports your online development and is not redundant. You want students to come to class to be able to be engaged, actively engaged, not to just hear you regurgitate or reiterate some of the pieces that are online. As we talk about the online course structure, it's important to think about chunking. Gardner and his colleagues noted in 2002 that since instructions or instructors don't always have a physical presence, especially if they're teaching an online course, some primarily if they can do it hybrid, but that the presence of chunking is really important. So as you think about chunking, I want you to think about how you can create opportunities in your weekly modules to group things together that are conceptually related, or to also think about how you can chunk the material in terms of the time commitment and the process and the cycle of learning in each weekly module. It's going to be important that you have a solid internal structure. I would start with, and I've asked faculty to start with, developing a graphic organizer to guide their work. So as you develop, and you will see at the end of this presentation today, you develop a graphic organizer to guide your work. You use that over and over again as you create your material. It's also going to be important to chunk at the screen folder level. It's going to be important for you to determine how. How do you want to do that? How do you want to chunk at that level? You're going to have to really think about turning these bits into chunks, so then moving the material back together. And it's going to be important for you to consider chunking your units into 3 or 4 sections. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that. So now let's review a course that has employed some chunking methods to the structure of the course. So as you can see here, each weekly unit is outlined with the overview, gives you a nice title and introduction. It talks about what is the learner going to explore in each module. So for instance, in the first one, you can see that the topics are including of the overview of online teaching concepts. It talks about institutional resources that are available. It gives us the student in this course an opportunity to think through what will be covered in each module. As the students click a level deeper, then you will see here is the actual structure of every single weekly module. So each module of every week follows this structure. First, at the very top, starting with the learning objectives, I think this is really key because you want to make sure that you help students or faculty members, in this case, as this was an online course, navigate through what you're expecting them to do at the end of each week. You will then see that there is an opportunity to, by 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, to be able to go through the material. And then there's a folder called Learning Activities. So all of the activities for each week are included in this area. And then lab activities, and this was a hybrid class. So all the PowerPoints, all the activities, anything that happened in the lab component is housed here. And this structure is followed out throughout each week. Another example is for you to create weekly folders, as we saw in the previous slide, with the information and the title and the heading. And then inside of each week, you could explore maybe something like this. Think about creating 5 folders. The first folder could be called Read. In the folder, you could create all the reading assignments that you want students to do for that week. Explore could be the next folder. In the exploration folder, you're asking students to review narrated PowerPoints, if they're podcasts, any additional material that supplement the reading of the actual course. After Read and Explore, you're going to ask them to apply. So apply is a place that you could put things like, as I talked about earlier, the self-assessment, so you can have students test their knowledge. You could put instructions for the face-to-face component of your course if it's hybrid. So you would have Read, Explore, Apply, and then Connect would be the 4th folder. In the Connect area would be any opportunities you're asking students to collaborate with other students in the course. So this would be discussion board posts. This can include any group projects, any group work, any blogs you're asking them to do collectively. All of that will be in the Explore folder, in the Connect folder. And the last folder could be Evaluate. So in the Evaluate folder would be all of the graded assignments of the course. So Read, Explore, Apply, Connect, Evaluate. Maybe another opportunity for you to consider that. So now I want to turn this over to you and have you think about what we've discussed today. I want you to think about a unit or module. I want you to start with this first box by identifying what are the weekly learning objectives? What are students need to be able to do at the end of this week? And also thinking about how that relates back to the overarching course goal. Then once you've identified those objectives, are there 1, 2, 3, or 4 topics that you are going to delineate within your module? Or are you going to do another format where you have all of the topics in an a read, explore, apply, connect, evaluate folder? But I want you to consider how you would set this up so that your learners are really set up for success each and every week. And once you decide your structure, I'm going to ask you to just try it for a semester or two and stick to it. I thank you for your time today as we've talked about the importance of alignment. We've talked about the importance of course design. We've talked about the importance of making sure that there are engagement opportunities for your students in your online and hybrid courses. I look forward to having you see other videos that we make as well as other support pieces we make to support Laney College. And I thank you for your time today.